All right, welcome back, Red Sox Nation, to another episode of Red Sox Wrap 360. We got to see Chris Young and Xander Bogaerts tear it up on the offense this week as we took a road trip to San Francisco and Minnesota. And we'll talk about it all right here on this week's Red Sox Wrap 360.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Woo! Got Lil Dicky on the jams this week, paying homage to Chris Young, who's been mashing balls, and he's been saving that money too. Anyways, quick recap. We went to San Francisco this week for a 2-game series against the Giants, and then followed it up with a day off and another 3-game series in Minnesota versus the Twins. Pretty successful week for the Red Sox. We split in San Francisco and won 2 out of 3 off the Twins. However, today we had a little bit of a drought when we needed it the most. We ended up losing today 7-4 in extras on the walk-off. It was a little painful to see, but overall, a very good week for the Sox as the offense keeps on rolling. As you guys might know, I am Ben Fay. You can call me on my Twitter or get at me at my Twitter at Benny Friggin Jam.
Woo.
And on the Skype again this week, we've got the one, the only, Mike Conley.
What's up, Benny Frickin' Jam? I believe it's frickin' and not friggin'. So let's make sure all those people out in the Twitterverse realize that distinction.
Thank you for calling that out, Mike. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So, Mike, what'd you think about the Red Sox this week? Won 3 out of 5 on a relatively slow week. Got a couple days off. Overall thoughts, give it to me.
I got to tell you, Ben, you can't stick your nose up at a winning week, but you can't help but look back and think that maybe some opportunities got away from the Red Sox. It's nice. If you told me at the beginning of the week that we were going to have a split in San Francisco, I would have said I was quite excited. But they certainly had every opportunity to win that second game there on Wednesday, and it's unfortunate that that got away. As far as the Minnesota series, it seemed like today, on Sunday, in the finale of the series, it seems like the Red Sox thought all they had to do was get aboard the team bus, and they were going to sweep the Twins today. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was kind of really just lackluster right from the beginning. Xander, uncharacteristically, had a couple errors. That second error, even though it did ultimately end up leading to 2 runs, it was kind of odd where he wouldn't just go the short way to Petey. I think Psycho Lion said during the telecast that, Petey wasn't there yet, but he was going to be there before the runner. I just don't understand that. Either way, Hanley should probably make that pick, although he's kind of due for missing one of those. But It doesn't really put a blemish on the week that Xander had. And you just hope it's just an aberration, and he refocuses this week and gets back to the stellar two-way play we've been accustomed to expect out of him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that I think at this point he's probably a lock for the All-Star team, but I don't want to jinx anything, so let me just knock on some wood or something. I don't know how far up he is, but he was crushing it. Couple things
the
you
guy's
mentioned.
hitting 350, so
Yeah.
it's like, please put him in. He's already got more homers than he had last season, so
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So a couple things you mentioned, Mike, that I think were really big themes throughout the week, and probably today as well was a big theme, was the errors. Not only for the Red Sox, but on both sides. So today, some key errors for both the Red Sox and the Twins. Xander making a couple errors, as you mentioned, very uncharacteristics. The Twins also made a couple errors too that helped keep the Red Sox in the game. Also, earlier on in the week, the Giants had some issues with the errors. I think what I'm going to try to relate this back to is how much we appreciate having that stellar fielding in the Boston Red Sox, where we really don't have to worry about errors a lot. This week, again, mentioned that it was a little bit of an issue, but I mean, up until this week, we really haven't talked a lot about the Red Sox and errors, so that's always nice.
Yeah, the Twins can't say the same thing. While it might have been uncharacteristic for the Red Sox, it was unfortunately characteristic for the Twins this season, as they're having kind of a tough one. That they are horrible, and that's why it's so unfortunate that the Red Sox were able to let just an opportunity like this slip by the boards. It's just.
And the thing was, they weren't meaningless errors. They were errors where they were critical plays during the game, where they were extending innings, where they were putting runs on the board. Errors in all the wrong spots, and that can happen. When you get an error like that, it deflates your team, and sometimes those easy outs just don't come as easy after one of those errors. So. We'll keep our eyes on that, but I don't anticipate that this is going to continue going forward for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, give that kid a lot of credit, Max Kepler. He's hit his first, career home run. That was kind of odd in the late innings there with Mookie coming in, because they had to preserve the run, having 5 infielders around. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, once that kid got in the outfield, I was like, oh, it's done. But then it just kept sailing and went over the fence.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty crazy. Oh, not to also be overshadowed is, they got a great start from their starting pitcher. What was it? Pat Dean. The kid Pat Dean from Connecticut native,
Yeah,
BC.
from Naugatuck. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I used to live in Naugatuck. We got some good baseball genes there in Naugatuck.
I guess
None that made it to me, but there's some good ones.
Yeah, Pat Dean, the BC alum, and just a quick shout out to the Boston College baseball team. Mm-hmm. They dropped one today in the rubber match of their series with Miami, 9-4. But they had a good season, and they got nothing to hang their heads about. So Great job, Eagles, and much props to my boy Johnny Adams.
There you go, giving shout outs to the fans and the players of the podcast.
It's my buddy's nephew.
Oh, all right, there we go.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I have to get off my chest, I can't believe I missed this last week. My mom was sure to be the first one to let me know that I missed it. Congratulations to Jackie Bradley Jr. on being a father. We missed it last week. We talked about him winning AL Player of the Month, which was great. But, put things in perspective, that was probably the second news story for him. He talked a little bit about it over the weekend or over the week, and said it really puts things in perspective for him. So I hope that leads to like more hitting streaks. If at the very least, but he's been doing his job, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, we might, as Red Sox fans, just shoot for the Bradleys to have a 12 or 14 kid family, over his career for the Red Sox. Whatever needs doing.
Absolutely. I think the other big story was Xander Bogaerts, you mentioned, continuing to stay. He had a huge plate appearance in San Francisco with the game tied, and he was able to do that little bloop there into center field, get the 2 runs in, and ultimately Red Sox ended up getting that game, which was great. Man, his hitting's been just really good this year. Like you mentioned, 350. Also now, I feel like he's starting to show the power, and it's just really effortless the way that he can get some of those balls into center field off the walls. Just a seemingly effortless swing from him. So, wow, I'm really excited. Yeah, we're both excited about seeing how Xander progresses through this season. Just starting off really hot, and it doesn't seem like he is slowing down at all. So
yeah, I mean, back-to-back 4-hit games, Ben. I mean, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I think he had 2 more hits today, and then his base running play early in the week when he went first to third when no one was covering third. That's a great heads-up baseball play.
Now,
and this kid is showing maturity beyond his 23 years, and I'm just happy we didn't trade him 2 or 3 years ago when every team in the league wanted him.
Absolutely, and And Mike, I'm not sure if all of our viewers actually saw that play. Just a little bit of a recap of what happened. Essentially, Xander was running to second, and it was pretty much a double play ball that got hit to the second baseman. And I think Xander might have saw in the corner of his eye that second baseman was having trouble fielding that ball and getting it to second base for the start of the double play. And instead of sliding into the base, he actually just straight up rounded it, saw that there was nobody at third, and just kept right on going. So ended up sneaking out with no double play and set himself up to get the run later in that inning. So just a great heads up play. I'm not sure if I've ever seen something like that. I mean, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Ben, and I think this is kind of what we said, and the reason kind of why it happened is because they were in a shift, and so it was a case where I believe they had the third baseman flipped over the shortstop. So when the shortstops, came to the bag, as he normally would for, like, say, a 4-6-3 double play, he was the last guy that could possibly get to third base to cover, or the closest guy. So when Xander beat the throw to second, he saw nobody was there.
Yep.
So he just kept on rounding and running.
Yeah.
He was safe at second. They threw ahead to first to get the out on Poppy.
Yep.
But because of his heads-up base running, he ends up on third with less than 2 outs, and then scores on a sac fly by Hanley, I believe, the next batter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's little things like that maybe don't show up in the box score, but, we hardcore fans that are watching every day just – like, it's jaw-dropping every day with this kid. And that's, like, one of the things you talk about with, like, the shift and people don't like and people don't like. But something you always say about baseball, you have the opportunity to see something you've never seen in this game every time you tune in. And with the shift now, we're seeing that on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I forget who was pitching, but he was like kind of halfway in no man's land between third base and home plate, just kind of watching the play unfold, and then probably afterwards thinking, oh, who's supposed to be covering third? Oh yeah, that was probably me that was supposed to do that, right? Well,
oh yeah, that was him.
Oops.
That was him.
So that'll happen. So, Mike, we let off the show with a little bit of Save That Money, Lil Dicky. The reason why
Chris Young, baby.
Your man, Chris Young, has really started to heat it up this week. Now, let me just do a little bit of a flashback to earlier this season when we were giving old Johnny Boy flack for continuing to start Chris Young when he started off really slow this season. Should we maybe go back and think about maybe why they were trying to get Chris Young warmed up? Maybe that John felt that there was a little bit of a soft spot on the Red Sox in left field and said, hey, you know what? This guy might be able to come in at some point this season and make an impact.
Well, yeah, I think it was just I think he always believed that Chris Young could play. But the problem with him was he was brought in kind of as a platoon player, because he merely mashes lefties. And the Red Sox saw probably 3 lefties in their first 35 games out of the chute. So that's kind of why Farrell stuck him in there, versus some righties there where, maybe it wasn't so advantageous for him. But now he's hitting righties. Yep. He's hitting lefties. I got to eat a little bit of crow because I was saying last week about how I don't really want to see him in there against righties. I'd rather see Rusney, of all people. But Chris Young, just shut me up this week. And it just seems like he falls right in line with the way this Boston Red Sox lineup is shaping up this week. Real quick through the zone, quick hands, turns on it. He's kind of in that same kind of Bradley Betts, Bogarts, mode. So yeah. I'm quite excited, and we're going to need every bit of it. With the injuries we've had to Swihart and Holtz, it's good that he saved his best for this current period of time. So it's great and you look at, I think he's got 6 home runs maybe on the season, and 5 of them are versus righties. So his power numbers are coming all right versus righties. He just hits better versus lefties for average. But like he says, it's something I've never really put any thought to. I think I can hit whoever's out there. So.
Sure. Yeah, and I think for most of the fans that, are probably tuning in to see the highlights or, just tuning in every couple of days for the game, they probably do see a lot of the numbers that Chris Young is putting up at the plate. The things that they might miss are some of the other plays. He had this one crazy sliding catch in left field. I think it was in San Francisco, where he was chasing it down, hit the warning track, went into a slide, and I just had like these terrible flashbacks of when Swihart went for that ball in Fenway, and I thought, oh man, just stay healthy. And he did like this really awkward slide while he was catching it, and yeah, just popped right up and, casually walked off like no big deal. He's been playing the field well too. I think he really, he works well with the outfield that we have. We don't really ask him to do too much, but I mean, it shows that he can, make plays when he needs to. The other play that I want to mention is the one where it was that base running play when he dipped under the tag and just barely avoided the tag. That was a crazy play. When I saw the play initially, I said, oh man, are you sure that he got him? And then they actually went to replay, and it was even closer than it looked in slow-mo. It was like literally less than an inch away from tagging him. Huge play right there, right? I mean, that's all you can ask for when you bring guys off the bench like that and kind of put them in those big role positions, is like, just do anything you can to stay on base and to get on base and to get to the next base. So some good stuff that we're seeing out of Chris Young.
Awesome.
I'm really stoked that he's starting to turn things around because, I mean, frankly, you really need him to.
And it says something a lot about him as a ball player, where, like we said, he wasn't really getting the at-bats early in the season to get it going. But the kid stayed ready. He got his opportunities. Now he's making the most of it. And, he wasn't squeaking that whole time, So he just stayed ready. And now he's getting that base running play was incredible. Yeah. I mean, that athleticism to be able to stay in the baseline and dodge that was just an extremely heady play. And, the guy probably should have just thrown it to second base and he would have had a double play. They would have been out of the inning. But it turns out Young comes around and scores a very pivotal run in that game.
Yep, absolutely. So those are the guys that have been hot. And Ortiz. Ortiz was hot too. They did bring Ortiz into the Giants, and I was listening to the commentary. I forget who it was that said it, but they said, look, it is the National League, and we are going to give Ortiz the day off because we don't want to put him at first base, but look, this is probably the best hitter on the team. Like, you need to figure out situations to get him in the game. And they did that, right? They brought him in as a pinch hitter close to the end of the game. And I think that's what you need to do. You always need to find situations to get Ortiz in the game. What are your thoughts on that, Mike? Any thoughts about that? I mean, definitely the right play to make, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you can't really fault him either way. I mean, if you say you stick him in there at first base, okay, you're taking a back seat in, defense, but you're also having one of the best hitters in the game in there for 4 or 5 at-bats. But when you don't play him, it's also nice to have the luxury of, taking one of the best left hitters in the game and just being able to use them wherever you want towards the end of the game. So, I really don't feel strongly either way on that. I mean, the guy's hitting whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's starting. So, I'm just hoping for health, Ben. Just hoping for health.
I'm hoping for health too. And just an update, last week I mentioned the doubles count. I think last time I checked, he's on track for 71 doubles. Gosh, I don't want to do like a doubles count every week, but yeah, he's mashing it this year. I hope that he does it. And also, I told you that the record was like somewhere between 60 and 70. It's 67 doubles, and that was like, I think it was like 60 something years ago that guy did it. I forget who it was, but yeah, he's on an absurd pace right now. Just want to call that out again. Okay, so a lot going on in pitching. We had Wright up again, and he is awesome. Man, this is so crazy. Like, I feel like every week we talk about, okay, well, like, Wright's still tearing it up. Like, this is a guy that we didn't think was going to be this good. And he just continues to do it. And I think every time we start looking toward the future, we start thinking, is this a guy that realistically we think can hold this pace? And I think probably for like most people outside of Red Sox, like, Major League Baseball analysts in general will probably say, look, this isn't a guy that is going to keep up this pace, right? He's a knuckleballer, probably going to average, maybe 6-6 the rest of the season with like a 3 or 4 ERA. I don't know, Mike. What do you think? I mean, I haven't really seen a lot of negatives coming out for any of his starts lately.
No, he's been fantastic, and that is always the fear with the knuckleball pitcher is the inconsistency of the pitch. You think is going to lead to the inconsistency of the pitcher, and he's been the most consistent pitcher the Red Sox have had this year. So it's just great to see, and it's really kind of saved the Red Sox bacon in a lot of ways. So you do expect and foresee him at some point this season, having maybe a bad run of starts. Mm-hmm. And you just hope that the other starters in the rotation, figure out their ailments and can pick him up when that does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing that they were talking about I think it was during the Minnesota series, was the fact that, look, this guy knows how to pitch situationally as a knuckleballer. There are going to be some times when you're going to fall behind in the count and you need to throw a fastball on a 2-0 count or a 3-0 count. There are times when you'll be behind in a 2-1 count or a 3-1 count where you're going to have to keep sticking with the knuckleball. And I think that he has a good idea for when he needs to challenge batters based on the potency of the lineup, based on, what's going on the base running situation behind him. I think that he makes a lot of good decisions like that. And I feel like he doesn't often get into situations where he's given up grand slams or he's given up huge home runs with guys on base, right? He's just really good at managing the situation. So it's really good to see that. And it's really fun watching him. I feel like it's just really energizing. He's not like a high heat guy. He's like a different kind of energy. Like, you don't know what's going to happen with the knuckleball. You can never tell. And actually, we had Vasquez catching Stephen Wright this week. And I'm sure that was a little bit of an adventure for him too. But yeah, it's just really fun watching him pitch the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's really he has a terrific demeanor. Nothing does faze him. Mm-hmm. And it's just whether things are going good or things are going bad. He's just that same kind of level. It's almost like he's channeling the other Stephen Wright. Sometimes when he gives these interviews, because he's just so kind of monotone, and you don't even know if he won the game or lost it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I love it.
I love it. You know who else I love, and he hasn't really had the great results this week, is David Price. Had two losses, I think, this week. A little unfortunate.
He deserves them because he was getting wins when he wasn't pitching that well earlier this year. So it's even out.
That's true. That's true. But to speak to that, 4 earned runs over his past 15 innings. Normally you'd think he's been pitching pretty well. It's unfortunate that he got the losses. But the Red Sox just weren't giving him any run support. So, I mean, it's unfortunate when that happens. But, at the same time, it's unfortunate that we get the losses. But, I mean, that's got to give you some confidence going into the future to know that, this guy's continuing to march out there and actually show some improvement. He was a little up and down at the beginning of this year, but, I feel like he's starting to turn things around. And, his pitches look great. Doesn't seem like he's giving up as many hard hit balls as he was in the beginning of the year, but he's showing what he's made of, so that's good. We're going to need him down the stretch for sure.
No question.
The other guy that we have, Porcello, he's been a little bit up and down. He had a rough game there. Mike, any thoughts on Porcello with his performance this week?
I think that, he hasn't been real flashy. He got off to a really good start and has kind of regressed a little bit. But I still think, with the roller coaster that Price was on earlier this season, you probably have to look at Porcello as our second most consistent starter behind Stephen Wright, Mm-hmm. And, so I think that while he's not maybe flashy, I thought he pitched a really good game today. and was a victim of some poor defense.
Mm-hmm.
And but I kind of like what we've gotten from him this year. Is it worth $22 million a year? I don't know. But with the way that pitching contracts are skyrocketing each year, by the end of his contract, it might look pretty good.
Right, and to be honest, I mean, what other options do we have, right? So whether it's 22 million or 5 million, we still need him. He's still probably our number 3 pitcher on the rotation. So let's be realistic.
No, I hear you. That's exactly why Trader Dave is definitely going to make a trade before the deadline.
Well, or is he? I read an article today. It was talking about, who that 5th rotation spot's going to go to, because like we mentioned last week, that date, June 18th, is circled on the calendar, and it's coming up. We got about one more week to figure out what the heck's going to happen before that date rolls around. I've heard Roenis Elias getting thrown out there. He's a guy that we have in the minors. I'm not sure which is he on the Paw Sox or?
He is Ben, and actually he's been kind of lights out in four of 5 of his last starts.
Yeah,
he's had a 5-start stretch where he's really been pitching well. He had one clunker in there, but he certainly looks like the leading candidate as of now to take the next turn as that 5th starter coming up. At the end of this week.
Right, and I think we did hear some news about Joe Kelly maybe straining his groin or something on his last start, and then they maybe give him some extra rest, and so it doesn't sound like he's ready to make the jump back yet as our 5th spot, and maybe that's for the best. Just kind of figure out what's going on with him and work things out there, and give some of our young guys a go at it. But yeah, you're right. I think, when it comes to the trade deadline, the other news that came out was look, our offense is good. We feel good where we're at offensively. We got some guys that are a little dinged up, but nothing that, an all-star break can't cure and get us through to the second half of the season with. The big weakness that we have is starting and relief pitching. Red Sox are going to be in the market for both of those areas big time. I think some of the names that we've already thrown out there are definitely still out there. I think Rich Hill is another guy that, the Red Sox could come close to putting together a package for. Rich Hill, for all you guys who aren't familiar with, is really doing well this year, surprisingly coming on with a strong season out of Oakland. That's the guy that I'm sure the Red Sox have their eyes on. Mike, anybody else from around the league that you've heard about that the Red Sox may try to make a run at before the trade deadline?
Well, I think that we're kind of here. Well, maybe a couple weeks ago, James Shields' name was thrown about, but he's since been traded to the White Sox earlier this week. And so that, thankfully, is a name that's off the list.
Right.
But I think the same names you kind of been hearing all around, the 2 names in Oakland, Sonny Gray, because he's a controllable young pitcher that's having kind of a down year. And, Hill. And, Red Sox fans that stayed, didn't jump off the wagon last year and watched how Hill finished with the Red Sox last year, got to be kicking themselves that they didn't tenure a 1-year, $6 million deal to try and retain this guy. The guy's right here, homegrown in Milton, Mass., and you don't bring him back. And now Dombrowski's definitely kicking himself because that's one of the guys he'll be in the market for. And rather than it just costing dollars, it's going to cost him prospects for a rent-a-player now for the rest of the year. But it's going to be a seller's market out there with these wild cards, the 2 wild cards now. It's going to be a seller's market kind of every trade deadline. So it scares me as to what the price is going to be if they go after somebody like a Sonny Gray or a kid Fernandez from the Marlins or, a Tyson Ross.
Have you heard about
Tehran?
Yeah. Is he on the market? I haven't heard his name getting tossed around, Fernandez. Because if he is, whoa. He's ridiculous this year.
Well, it's going to come up on. They're going to have to, sign him to a deal here coming up to try and keep him in town, and it's the money's going to be big, so they might try and deal him instead of doing that.
Yeah,
because they already have a $300 million some odd contract going with Giancarlo Stanton. So it's like, how many $300 million contracts can you have in your team if you're a third place team, you know?
Yeah, well, if you got enough money, you can do it. And they do have money, and they love to spend it. But yeah, I mean, let's hope that at some point they decide that a couple highly paid players isn't going to be the way to success for them, and maybe they'll settle for a couple of our prospects.
Oh, speaking of prospects, Ben, we had our yearly opportunity this week to stock up with some more of them.
Oh, tell me more. The MLB draft, I think you're referring to, which was on Thursday, I believe.
I believe it was on Thursday. And I mean, it's not as well known as its, step brothers, the NBA draft and the NFL draft, but it's a draft nonetheless. And it's a way to build your team of the future with young, low-price talent. So obviously every GM in the league is salivating for when draft time comes. And the Red Sox got what was a guy who was on many lists as being the top talent in the draft.
Yep.
Jason Groom,
yep.
The high school left-hander, the 6'5" left-hander from New Jersey. And, there's some character issues about him. He was suspended this year from his high school team, but that was kind of a transfer thing. He transferred back from an academy down in Bradenton, Florida. And so, but there are some red flags on this guy. Obviously, widely regarded as a top 2 talent in this year's draft, slips all the way to the Red Sox at number 12. But I mean, it's you got to think it's worth a chance. I mean, I've seen in some circles where some people are comparing him to Clayton Kershaw. So, I don't want to get that far ahead of ourselves or put any undue pressure on the kid. But that's heavy praise.
Yeah. I mean, definitely do not disagree with that move that they made at all to get him. Yeah, I had heard probably 1 or 2 overall in the draft, and to get him at 12 was, a great opportunity, especially for the Red Sox, who, really need some pitching in our minor league system. They did not let down. They kept drafting pitchers right on through the draft. I think they got a couple more day 2 and a couple more on Saturday. So, loading up on pitchers.
You got to do it by the numbers game, Ben. I mean, the Red Sox track record on homegrown pitches has not really been too good.
Right.
That's one we can really claim is now pitching out of our bullpen. So.
Yep. Well, and the Red Sox do a pretty decent job of drafting. You can look at the class of 2011 is. Tearing it up for the Red Sox this year. So, I mean...
Positional players, all positional players.
Oh, yeah. So...
although Anderson Espinoza, we have to be, thrilled by him. He had, I believe Friday night, he had 5 scoreless innings down at Greenville. So.
Ooh, there we go. You were down in Greenville. Okay, great. Yeah, see, that's why you tune into us, because we are out there getting it done. Okay,
I'm over here covering the whole East Coast, Ben.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, I'm not sure if you know this. So he is a high school player. There is a chance that he could go play college ball and re-enter next year's draft. Is that how it works? And then what happens with the Red Sox then? Do we just give up that draft pick means nothing, or how does that work?
I think they would get a compensatory pick.
Okay.
Which is like a sandwich pick, I believe, at the end of the first round. But I don't think there's any chance of that happen. He was originally going to go to Vanderbilt.
Okay.
But then Vanderbilt withdrew their offer.
Oh, I heard about that.
Allegedly not for baseball reasons.
Oh.
So that kind of is another red flag on the character.
Uh-oh.
But I'm just hoping ththese character flaws. Allegedly, the kid likes to have fun and all that stuff. I'm hoping I'm chalking it up to, hey, the kid's 18 years old. He's a knucklehead. Give him enough time in the minors, 3 or 4 years, and get that out of him, So, I mean, you can't really, when talent that good slips to you at 12, you can't really let it pass by you.
No, definitely not. So, yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is a guy who's throwing high heat as a high schooler with an above-average curveball and changeup. So, he's got his bread and butter pitches pretty much locked in at an early age.
He's working on the change. He throws 96, and he's got a power curve that's probably a plus pitch right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think, like you were saying, well, with that Vanderbilt withdrawing his offer, he was going to go to like a junior college.
Okay.
So I think with being, and that was probably going to be like if he slipped out of the first round. Going 12th overall, I'm quite confident that he's going to want to deal with the Red Sox. Although I have heard another reason was a red flag is he may be looking for a lot of bonus money, somewhere in like
That's
the
what I
six
heard, yep.
million range. Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
So, and where the Red Sox, I believe, they're strictly allotted in that due to the collective bargaining, and I think you have something like 6.7 million to use for bonuses for any picks you get in the top 10 rounds.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't see him getting 6 million.
Yeah, I had heard something around the range of like 3 million was what he was expected to end up getting, but we'll see. I mean, I guess it depends on how badly the Sox really want him, and if he's willing to roll the dice and wait another year, right? I don't know. I think he'll probably end up signing for whatever they give him. I mean, let's hope so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. It isn't Boris. He isn't Boris. So.
Yeah. So, Mike, we have a couple series at home here now. We got 3 games against the Orioles starting on Tuesday, and then 3 against the Mariners. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens this week. Those are 2 tough teams. We've gone against the Orioles a couple of times this year, and they seem to play us really well. The Seattle Mariners are doing pretty good this year as well, so we'll get a chance to see them as well. Any things that you're looking for, Mike, in the upcoming homestand?
Well, it would be like to, when you have series at home, you got to win the series at home. So 2 3-game sets, we got to take 2 out of 3 of both of these, and especially Baltimore being a division foe. The Mariners started out real hot, and they're sliding back a little bit to reality. So we could be getting them at the right time. So let's sweep them. Let's take 5 out of 6 this week, Ben.
There you go. We're gonna march David Price out there for Tuesday against Chris Tillman. So that will be quite the matchup of pitching there. Let's hope that David Price can pitch well and get the win. Call me crazy, right? Let's hope that happens. But yeah, I mean, Chris Tillman's no joke this year either. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, we got our boy Stephen Wright going the nenext night. So we got to be looking good there. And then Erod, hopefully we can get him going good. I think that you got to be patient with Erod because he had that extended spring training. Let's give him 2 or 3, 4 more, even 4 more starts before we start really calling upon this guy to be the pitcher and potential number 2 starter we thought he was going to be this year.
Yeah, and I think you're probably referring to his start this week where, the first couple innings he played really well and showed pretty good command of his pitches, and then kind of fell apart, going into the 4th and 5th inning. So, yeah, you're right. Probably a little bit of conditioning work that still needs to take place there, and that's fine. Like, look, this is a young guy anyways, so let's give him time. I think that he is going to find a role in this starting lineup. He's definitely got the skills, so let's just make sure that he, gets the experience that he needs in order to help us down the line.
Yeah, and an interesting trend to keep a look at, Ben, and for the folks that are tuning in, is his day and night splits. He seems to be lights out when he pitches at night. He's got an ERA sub-2, and like his ERA in day games is somewhere in the 7s. So it's kind of interesting.
Huh. Any particular reason why you would see something like that from a pitcher? I mean, is it more or less to do with playing under the lights, or maybe they just, their internal clock is better suited to play at night or in the morning or anything like that? Or have we heard anything about that?
I really can't put my finger on it, Ben, because I mean, it's kind of bucks a trend, because I would say 8 out of every 10 hitters you talk to would rather hit at night than in the day. Yeah. It's kind of shocking to me that he has the exact reverse effect, but hopefully it isn't something that continues his whole career, and he can rectify it and, pitch in day games, night games, lunar eclipses, whatever happens to be the case. And, because we're going to need him.
All right. Well, I think we're coming up to the top of the hour. So, Mike, I'm going to thank you for joining us for another Red Sox Wrap 360. Are you going to be in the studio next week, or you have one more week of vacay?
I am one more week of vacay. I'm going to try and get down to the friendly confines of Fenway this week and get us some, I'm
going to have to hook you up with my boy Duffy, who's probably listening right now. Red Sox Fan of the Year. Shout out to Duffy.
Most def.
He's going to hook you up.
I also, sorry, Ben, I want to give props. I think your mom's hit us up on the YouTube page. And there was also another guy he said he liked Swihart better than Vasquez.
Okay.
And I was thinking maybe that's something for us next week, because I know you're kind of a Swihart guy and I'm a Vasquez guy, so maybe we'll argue that next week.
Good idea. Yeah, and we did see him on the All-Star ballot. I think he's like 5th for catchers. I don't even know how that's possible. He was only like 3rd on the Red Sox alone. Yeah, great idea for next week, and I'm sure that Betsy frickin' Faye is going to be super psyched that you gave her a shout out during the show. Thank you, Mike. We'll see you again next week.
Appreciate it, Ben. Go Sox.
Yeah. So, folks, a couple loose ends that I want to wrap up before we wrap up today. The Travis Shaw is slumping a little bit. We're going to hope that he turns it around this week. I think he was like 1 for 15 over this past week. So looking for big things to come from Travis Shaw this week. And other than that, I think we're going to be looking forward to the week to come. And I forget how we end up. Do they play me out to Little Dicky again? Or they play me out to AfterBuzz? I don't know. We got Steve on the 1s and 2s back there. He's gonna tell me what to do, I think. Oh, he's gonna play me out. He's gonna play me out. Okay, thank you, Steve. And then one more thing. I want to give a shout out to Betsy frickin' Faye for watching my show, and she's been forwarding it to all the other Red Sox fans over in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So we got fans all over the place. I want to hear in the comments, Red Sox Nation, where you guys are tuning in from. Maybe we got some fans in Alaska, maybe some fans in SoCal, Texas, Florida. I have no idea. Leave it in the comments. Let us know. And then we'll talk about it next week on our Red Sox Wrap 360. Peace out, y'all.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later, Red Sox Nation.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.